A very, very good afternoon to all of you who've taken time off to attend our session today. Ni hao to our Chinese participants. Um, so my name, as mentioned, is Dr. Farhan Ali. I'm a faculty member here in NIE, National Institute of Education. And today's briefing will cover two exciting programs, in my opinion. First program we've called Master of Science in Science of Learning, and the other program we've called Master of Education, Learning Sciences and Artificial Intelligence, or LSEI. Let me share screen and then okay, let me see. There you go. Title of today's session is From Brain Science to AI, the New Frontiers of Learning Design. As you can see, it's quite exciting, and you'll be given the opportunities to learn various perspectives, especially cutting-edge ones. What I'll do is I will cover our first program, the Master of Science in Science of Learning, for a few minutes, and then I'll move on to our Master of Education in Learning Sciences and AI. So this program, Master of Science in Science of Learning, is very unique because this is where we integrate perspectives from neuroscience, psychology, cognitive science, technology, AI, and of course, education. Why science of learning? Because we are undergoing a revolution in how we understand how humans learn. We know a lot about teaching, about education, and so on, but a lot less about the functions and structure of the brain and how we can leverage that understanding to optimize learning. So our program is evidence-based. There's a lot of exposure to rigorous neuroscience and empirical research. It's also highly translational. We cover a lot of case studies, both local and overseas, where findings from the lab are tested in classrooms in a way that's actionable and scalable. It's also future facing. As you will see later, we integrate quite a lot of AI, analytics, and learning design in our various modules or courses. This is a brief overview of the different courses that you'll be given the opportunity to sample. There are a total of 8 courses or modules. I think for many of you, you may think of this as modules, but in NIE, we call them courses, but you can use those interchangeably, modules or courses. So there'll be a foundations course where you'll be given both breadth and depth in terms of exposure to neuroscience, cognitive psychology, technology, and so on. There's also a methods course where you'll be given hands-on opportunities to learn how to analyze data. You will also be given hands-on opportunities to understand some imaging modalities, neuroimaging modalities like FNIRS. There's MSL 903, where you'll be dealing a lot with data from various senses, as well as educational data, such as achievement data, digital log data, and so on. Neuroscience features heavily in our program, MSL program or Master of Science in Science of Learning program. So there'll be one elective called Education and Neuroscience, where you can interrogate and apply brain science to inform intervention across all levels, from general education to higher education in adults. More courses here dealing with assessment, with translation, with brain behavior cognition, and in particular AI and neuroscience as a dedicated course. If you're interested in the synergies between AI, brain science, and educational research, it's got a unique learning design where you get to deal with authentic AI tools and real-world data sets to solve educational problems. So that's our Master of Science in Science of Learning, MSL in short, where again it takes a very interdisciplinary approach where different perspectives are synergized. I'm going to move on to our Master of Education in Learning Sciences and Artificial Intelligence, or MET-LSAI. It's formally known as the Master of Education in Learning Sciences and Technologies, but we've both reformed the curriculum as well as the naming to reflect some of the cutting edge areas that we have incorporated or integrated into the program. It's part of the Master of Education, broader Master of Education program with different specializations. This particular specialization is in learning sciences and artificial intelligence. The aim is to develop an in-depth understanding of learning sciences and AI, particularly to equip you with the skills to conduct investigations in your respective contexts. Why MET-LSAI? Because we are undergoing a transformation in how humans learn, think, and interact with technology. A lot of that has got to do with AI, as you can imagine. So this particular program would integrate some of this newer understanding. It also has an interdisciplinary bent to it, understanding learning from multiple perspectives, exploring the affordances of technologies, particular AI, and to drive meaningful pedagogical innovation in different contexts. This is a list of the different modules or courses. There are core courses as well as specialization courses, both required and electives. Required specialization courses are courses that you have to take in order to graduate. However, in the specialization electives, you can pick and choose the courses that attract your attention, excite you, or are applicable to your individual context, respective professional context. So we do try to balance the fundamentals and foundation with options and choices. So for both our MSL program and our MET-LSAI program, we have unique features such as small cohorts. You generally study with smaller groups of students of 15 to 25, seminar style. Almost all of our courses are seminar style. So it's intimate, rigorous, and very immersive. You get to learn from the instructor or the faculty member, but also from your classmates. Most courses are 52 hours. That's worth 4 AU. Is delivered over 13 weeks or so. Not all 13 weeks are in person, meaning not all 13 weeks will require your presence in NTU or NIE. Some weeks involve online delivery via Zoom. Some are self-paced learning, meaning you don't have to come to class. So somewhat asynchronous self-paced learning. There's also a lot of emphasis on real-world applications. We generally don't have sit-down exams. We take a more modern perspective. A lot of the assessment involves reflections, project work, written proposals. In some cases, projects involving apps and platforms that you can propose and even develop. So it's a blend of sort of intellectual scholarly work with authentic products that you have to deliver. Okay, so that's all from me. The common theme in these two programs is an emphasis on how learning works, both from the neuroscientific perspective, but also from a learning sciences perspective, and to integrate technology at different levels. So that's sort of the common thread uniting these two programs. So that's sort of the unique feature of our two programs for this session. That's the end of this part of the session, which is me presenting information and giving you a sense of the unique aspects of the two programs. The rest of the session, my understanding is that it's a lot more interactive. So if you have questions, concerns, clarifications, it will be an opportunity for you to unmute. You can also post on the chat. Yeah, the chat box. Just click on the chat and then type out if you feel more comfortable. Yeah, asking that way. Thank you so much. Yeah, Chloe. Is there anything on your side you want to share or?
I think maybe for our side, we can really talk about the subsidies. So, like you shared earlier about the MET for the learning sciences and technologies. So, just for the Singaporeans and Singapore citizens, is that we have the MOA subsidy. So, if you have not used it once, you can use it for this master's program. If not, then you can't enjoy it the second time. As well as you can use the MOE subsidy, we also have the skills future credit that you can use on top of that, as well as the alumni credits and also the skills future credit for if you're above 40. So that's the mid-career enhanced subsidy. And you can also use the skill future credit for the Master of Science of Learning program as well. Yeah. I think there are some questions in the chat already.
Okay, thank you for the question about the difference between the MSc program, the Science of Learning program, and the MEd program. I've taught in both programs. Um, so I have a sense that the MSc program is a lot more diverse in terms of student profiles. So not everybody is a teacher. Um, we have quite a number of students who are coming from academic backgrounds. They're interested in research. We have quite a number of students in our MSL program who are technologists, meaning they develop technological solutions, they work with industry and so on. We have quite a number of adult educators as well, meaning they are in education space, but they may not necessarily be grade school teachers. So they might be adult trainers or professional educators and so on. So the profile of students is a lot more diverse than our MET LSAI profile of students who tend to be um, more often educators teaching in schools. Um, that's just on average the difference in the profiles. In terms of the contents, MSL Science of Learning has a lot more representation of neuroscience. So if you are a lot more interested in brain science, neuroscience, neuroimaging, um, cognitive psychology, cognitive science, and so on, um, Science of Learning is a much better fit. There's a lot less emphasis on brain science or neuroscience in our Master of Education program. That's another difference in terms of the content. I would say a third difference will be the use of AI or the integration of AI is also a bit different. Science of Learning has a lot more data analytics or data-driven aspect of AI. We have at least two courses where the AI perspective is quite heavily machine learning and AI data analytics focus compared to the Master of Education. So on those levels, the student profile, the content coverage, and so on, they are quite distinct. I hope that helps.
Hello, Prof. Farhan. So sorry, there are some questions from our Chinese viewers. I think they want to find out if they do not have any background in AI or in related fields, right? How can they make the switch? So someone mentioned that her background is actually in psychology, but she wishes to make a switch. What would your
Thank you.
advice be?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think one of our programs will be a good uh, bridge if you want to sort of transition from a particular field like psychology or education, and then you want to dive deeper into AI because we do give you the foundation and application as well. So either of these programs will be a good fit. It really comes down to you in terms of uh, what are the additional contents, what are the additional exposure you might be interested in beyond AI. Yeah, because both programs will cover AI. So, like I said, Science of Learning has a lot more emphasis on neuroscience and cognitive psychology, cognitive science, whereas MET LSAI has a lot more emphasis on education, on learning sciences, which tends to be a lot less, um, which tends to cover a lot less on neuroscience, yeah, and cognitive science, yes. So I would say either the two programs would be a good way to bridge or transition from wherever your training is, non-AI, to a bit more AI exposure and applications. Yeah. Does that answer the question, Sharon?
Uh, I hope if they have
Okay.
more questions, they'll probably
Okay.
drop it in the chat function later.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
there's another question there by Pauline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm happy to address as many questions as you have in the chat. Um, I that's why I'm here, right? But if you feel comfortable, you can also unmute because it'd be fun to hear human voice. Yeah, and that's the emphasis we have in our program. You know, we don't just AI everything, okay? Because good learning is social. Good learning is social. It's fun to learn with other people, other humans. It's not that fun to just chat with chatbots, okay? Okay, so interested in learning sciences by Pauline, comfortable data analysis. What can I include in my application portfolio? Just be authentic, right? Say why you are interested in our program and the goals you have, and we will evaluate you accordingly. So I would say be authentic. Yeah. We in particular are looking for fit. Fit meaning we want to admit students who know what the program is about. Maybe not deeply, but at least know. Um, you know, it's about, for example, brain science, neuroscience, and AI in MSL, right? Um, because if there's no fit, then you may not be able to take the best advantage of the program. You may also be disappointed, right? And so on. So say upfront what you understand the program to be, what you hope to get out of it, and then the program committee, admission committee, will then be able to make an evaluation. This is in addition to your academic background, meaning we also evaluate your GPA, your bachelor's degree, and so on. Yeah, those things are important too, but fit is also important. We want to make sure the goals are aligned. Okay, Camille has a question about MSc and MET providing equal opportunities for PhD. Yes, absolutely. We've had quite a lot of students who've been graduates of our MSc program or our MET program going on to do a PhD. Yes, quite a number, including some of my own students. Yeah, not an issue because we provide a rigorous training. One thing I want to mention is that even though our program is coursework meaning most of the time you'll be taking courses or modules, there's an opportunity to also do a dissertation if you want. So a dissertation is a more extended research experience. And quite a number of our students who've done dissertations have gone on to apply and be admitted to PhD programs. So most students in either of our programs will do coursework, meaning modules, but you can have the option of doing a dissertation, and quite a number of our students have successfully used that to then prepare for PhD applications and be admitted. Okay, so we have Tina Chen raising your hand. Did you want to inject some human voice? Yeah. Sorry, Tina, cannot hear you. Might not be on the right mic.
No, I still can't hear you.
Mm, there's like a arrow or chevron button audio. You may want to click that and test your audio first. There's this thing audio at the bottom left. You may want to test your microphone first. There's
Sorry,
test speaker and microphone.
sorry, a quick question. Somebody from the China live stream asked how many people on average would be enrolled in this program?
Okay, good question. Good question. On average, we have about 15 to 25 matriculants. Matriculants meaning those who join us. Yes. Per cohort. Some years is higher, some years is slightly lower, but on average it's 15 to 20 to 25. Yes. For each of the programs. Yeah. Tina, can you?
Hi, Prof. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you now. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
I'm
trying.
very
Okay.
interested. Yes, thank you for your guidance. Yes, because I'm a teacher that in the secondary or the higher DP year level. So I think the most questions that my students have been emerging is not about the pedagogy or the skills they are. I'm talking, or their teachers are talking in the schools, right? So I think the most important thing is about the learning science or the learning assessment. So that's why I'm here. But I'm a very pure art, the background student. So I'm very interested in this program, and I want to receive some professional, the training you have mentioned before I enter into a higher level, just like the PhD or something else. So the first thing I want to check about is about you have said that this program have covered some self-learning part. Is that cover some virtual session in this courses? What's the proportions of that?
Okay, Tina, yeah, good to know you're considering our program. In terms of proportion of virtual or online sessions, it varies from course to course. Some courses is as high as 30 to 40% virtual or online, 30 to 40%, meaning out of 13 weeks, you might need to be present only, eight, eight sessions or 8 weeks, 8 or 9. Then the rest of the 5 or 4 weeks, you can be home or it can be via Zoom and so on. Yeah, asynchronous. So in general, we have two kinds of online session. One is synchronous, meaning like this, where we have everybody come together on Zoom or some other platform to learn together, synchronous online. Asynchronous is self-paced, meaning that there isn't really a need to get together. You just organize your week and do the assigned tasks or learning activities at your own pace. So that's self-paced. So we have a mix of those. Um, if you're asking, for example, do we know in advance when the different modes of learning will be for each week? For example, which week will be online, which week will be physical, and so on. The precise schedule will only be known a week or so before the start of the semester. So unfortunately, yeah, if you want to know exactly when the schedule is, it's not really known until you've registered for the module and are ready to start. In the past, we've never really had issues with students navigating the schedule. Yeah. So once they see the schedule, they're able to make adjustments. We are also quite flexible. If you have work-related travels, for example, if you have certain commitments that prevent you from coming to class and so on, we are quite flexible in excusing you or recording the session so that later on you can catch up, so to speak. So that's in terms of the class logistics or schedule.
So both two courses are the same, 30 or 40%.
30 to 40%, yes, blended. Yes, we blend it with different delivery modes. Yes, yeah, approximately, yeah, 30 to 40. Yes.
Another question is that let's turn to the part two of my question.
Sure.
Is that I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Learning science is a very important research directions for me. So I noticed that most, the professors have paid attention to the neutral science SU or the brain study. I understand that this is affiliated to student affection, right? So that's why we have to put the machines on ourselves or on the student when we are doing such a research. But in the real class, that's not realistics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to know to the neutral science or to the brain study, what's the point in the long terms if we don't take the clinic to the students? Because most students, their family are not so rich to receive such a professional clinic or something. But
Mm,
our research are focusing on the reality,
mm,
the meaning in the reality. We have to change their behaviorism, right? Yeah, I think in a short term. So if the students are not taking the medicine or not taking the clinic or psychological, very professional trainings, what's the point of the brain study
mm.
to changing their learning habits or the
Okay,
behaviorisms?
good question. Yeah, I think your question relates to the applicability of neuroscience research. I think what you're saying is that neuroscience research, a lot of it is inauthentic or potentially inapplicable because of the use of imaging that's not possible in classrooms and so on. I agree. So I want to say two things. One is that neuroscience research, even though it's not conducted in the classroom, even though it's conducted in the lab setting, um, in sort of um, a less authentic or more artificial environment, things that we learn from studying the brain can still be applicable, can create principles or insights that can be relevant for teaching. For example, I'll give you an example. Okay, um, uh, we now know that um, the the brain is a complex organ. When you do a single task, a simple task, just like, for example, writing Mandarin characters, we now know that the whole brain is involved. There's no such thing as we use only 10% of our brain. Um, that's sort of like a neural myth, something that we teach our students. Some of these beliefs that we have, right, as teachers. For example, we only use 10% of our brain, or there are left brain learners or right brain learners, and so on. I think some of these things teachers may have heard or may even be um, may even be designing their teaching using these beliefs. We now know many of these beliefs are wrong. Yeah, they're not based in science. So, for example, we don't just use 10% of our brain. What one thing we'll learn is that we, at any one time, we're using 60 to 70% of our brain. It's quite active. Yeah. Um, the other thing is there's again no such thing as left brain and right brain. When you do math, for example, your right brain is also activated a lot. Yeah, you'll be surprised. People think the left brain is more logical, mathematical, uh, and and uh, and so on, right? But no, right brain is also involved heavily in doing mathematics, um, and so on. So that's one aspect. What we learn about the brain now can influence how we think about teaching, even though the research wasn't done in the classroom. The other thing is there are some technologies where you can use it in authentic learning settings. So, for example, our research uses eye tracking. So, eye tracking is something that's very translatable. You can imagine using it in the classroom, in digital learning, when students use their laptops and so on. So, technologies are advanced enough now to just use a webcam. All of you probably use a webcam, right? Some of you have webcams on your laptop. There's just a small hole there. So there are machine learning technologies, AI technologies that are advanced enough to be able to track just using a webcam where you're looking at, and it's pretty accurate. So we have projects where we use that, we leverage that to understand where students are attending to information, how much they are processing certain parts of the interface or the learning materials, and so on. So that is something that um, it's a lot more authentic, a lot more applicable in the classroom. Yeah. So I would say eye tracking is a major aspect of neurotechnology. So when we think of neuroscience research, it's not just brain imaging. There are various other sensors like eye tracking. You can also have sensors looking at their arousal levels, wearing all these bands and so on. So I hope that helps. Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
yeah, Tina. Yeah. I appreciate the questions. I'm also going to move on to questions in the chat. Um, So thank you so much, yeah, Sharon and Chloe, who've been furiously answering some of the questions. Um,
Can I just
yeah,
raise some questions from the Chinese viewers?
sure.
I think might be applicable to our participants here as well. She asked if what are the career options after graduating from the program? and the other one would like to know about the study plan.
Study plan.
So
Okay.
yeah, study
Okay.
plan. So is there freedom to choose the courses, or do they follow a structured study plan?
Okay. Got it. Okay. Career options. I have to say that 70% of our students who join our program, when they leave, they continue with what they're doing in their respective jobs. So for many of them, they have a stable career, but they would like to level up their skills, their knowledge, their networks, and so on. So they remain in their careers, which for most of them are in education, at different levels. And so, but we do have a group of 20 to 30% who join our program and move on to different positions. So we've had people joining technology platforms, technology companies, and trying to integrate what they learn from science of learning or from learning sciences and so on. We've had students graduating from program going into research, doing PhD or doing research. We've had students coming into our program without an education background, without any experience in teaching, graduating from program and going into education. Yeah, so they become teachers. They work in education and so on. Yeah. So in that sense, it's like a career switch. Yeah. I have to emphasize that our programs, these master's degree programs, they are not professional programs, meaning if you want to teach in our public schools, for example, right? If you want to teach in our grade schools, you need to go through a more formalized teacher training program. This is not the same as our master's degree program. So we've had quite a number of potential applicants thinking that they can be qualified to teach, for example, primary schools or secondary schools once they graduate from our master's degree programs. It's helpful. It's helpful if you have training in our program, but it's not a requirement, or that doesn't guarantee that you can teach. We have a separate set of requirements for teacher training. This is something that you need to bear in mind. Yes. The other one is on study plan, right, Sharon? Yes, we balance structure with flexibility. So that's very important because you are adult learners, right? You also have a life. Some courses you really want to take, right? But then, on the evening, you have a lot of other things you cannot take that course, because in general, a course or module is run on the same evening every week. So if a module is on Tuesday evening, it will be Tuesday evening every week. Yeah. So we balance structure with flexibility and choice. We do have proposed study plans that you can follow. Most of our students will follow the proposed study plans, but maybe 20 to 30% may want to have some flexibility. They do try to pick and choose and go off study plan. Basically, they have their own pathway or their own schedule or pace. So we sort of give you the flexibility. But for those who want structure, feel free to just follow the proposed study plans. So on our website, especially the MSL program, Science of Learning program, we have the full study plans proposed that for you to follow. So you can take a look. We have Camille raising her hand. Camille.
Farhan,
Yes, Camille. Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Yes.
Okay. So I was wondering, right, so I'm looking at the website, right, understanding that the specialization elective courses is not all electives will be open, so it depends on demand. So roughly how many pupils does it take in order for that specialization to open up?
Oh, good question. Yes. I'm glad you raised that question. Not all electives are offered every semester, every year. So it really depends on a number of factors, including faculty resources, because some faculty, they are required to teach other courses. Depending on schedule clashes, because of the nature of the courses, we may not be able to offer certain courses due to clashes with other modules or other courses. In general, an elective is only offered once a year. once a year. In general, we have 2 semesters. We call them January semester or August semester. So if it's not offered in January, for example, next year, it's likely to be offered in January 2028. So if it's not offered in January 2027, it's likely to be offered January 2028. When do you know when it's going to be offered? The timetable of the courses being offered will be available to you about 3 months or so, 2 to 3 months before the start of the semester. So there's this period when you have to register for modules or courses. Then you'll be able to see the full timetable. What are the different courses on offer, which day, which time, and so on.
Can another thing I want to check, right? I'm just wondering, you say that some of the pupils actually move on to do some dissertation, right? So what are some examples of the certain areas or certain topics that they actually do their research on?
Good question. Thank you so much. Yeah. So again, most students go coursework route. We call it the coursework route or coursework route. So they simply take modules. But about 5 to 10% take this dissertation. Dissertation is very useful if you really want to get deep into research. For whatever reason, maybe your professional context, you need to do a lot of research, or you are interested in a PhD eventually, right? You want to challenge yourself. So some of these students end up doing a dissertation. One example, I've taken on quite a number of dissertation students. Yeah, one particular project was a classroom intervention to promote student motivation. So this was a real intervention implemented in at a whole level. A whole level meaning something like 5 to 6 classes in a secondary school secondary school intervention to promote student motivation by designing a learning experience involving both hands-on investigation, but also technology. There's an aspect of technology. Other dissertations involve developing a technological solution, meaning there's a prototype to address a particular learning challenge or learning problem. That's another example. Dissertation project. We've also had dissertation projects involving surveys. Surveys meaning if you are interested in perceptions, attitudes, beliefs about technology and so on. I've also had students doing survey research, yeah, which can be useful if you want to assess perceptions, attitudes, beliefs, and so on. So we have a variety. We've also had neuroscience projects. So for example, our science of learning program, because there's a heavy emphasis on neuroscience, we've had students doing neuroscience work, meaning some brain imaging and so on. Those tend to be more challenging, as you can imagine. So it's the gamut: classroom intervention, technology development, neuroscience research, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Professor. One more question, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
So say if people take on the dissertation route, right? Say for a part-time master's program, like roughly when should they start planning their topics and prepare for it?
Good. Yeah. I advise students they can start thinking about it the moment they step onto NIE. Thinking about it meaning like, as you're going through the courses or modules, right? Some things may catch your interest. Maybe you want to capture the interest somewhere, maybe write on your notes or download a file and so on. So as you're going through your modules, you can capture all these interesting bites and then start thinking, get your mind going and so on. Officially, if you're interested in the dissertation route, you can only apply officially after you complete 4 modules. So NIE requires you to have completed 4 modules before you can officially apply for dissertation. So if you take the program as a part-timer, usually that will happen after the first year. So this relates to a question in the chat. How does part-time study look like? If you are a part-timer, you generally take 1 to 2 modules or courses per semester. Because there are 2 semesters in a year, you will end up with 2 to 4 modules per year. Yeah, if you're a part-timer. Full-timers have to take 3 to 4. They have to take double the workload in essence. Yeah. So yeah, I would say for dissertation, you can start thinking about it as early as you want. Start talking to instructors, professors, talking to classmates, volunteering for research. Yeah, we've had students volunteer for research as well. Yeah, if they're interested. But officially, you can only apply after 4 modules. You completed 4 modules.
Sorry, are you able to share more about volunteering for research?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of research projects happening all over. So I've had students volunteer, meaning they talk to the professor and contribute to the research in a voluntary basis, meaning they're not paid. They don't have they don't get credit, but they get trained, they get some experience. I've had students follow me to schools, especially relevant for those without any teaching background. If you're an MOE teacher, obviously going to school is not something new, right? But for some students, it's a good experience. Yeah. So this is something that is given to you as an opportunity. Yeah, it's not formalized, meaning we don't necessarily have internships as such. We don't have like a matching service. It's really quite informal. I will be able to link you up. One thing to note is that each program, right? Each program has a program leader. So I'm a program leader for Science of Learning. Program leader for Master of Education is my colleague who's not here. Program leader provides a lot of advice, a lot of guidance, a lot of mentorship to the students. Yeah. So you are welcome to email the program leader if you need advice on how to study, if you have issues with the professor in a particular module. A lot of students come to me. So I have this balance. I have this role of both curriculum but also pastoral care, so to speak. Pastoral care meaning I try to talk to students, try to give them tips, try to make sure they can best navigate the program so that they can thrive. Yeah. So yes, there are advisory sessions, mentoring sessions set up with program leaders if students need it.
Professor, does it mean that we can only take part in all this volunteering research like after we are admitted to NIE?
I would say not necessarily. I mean, if if you're working full time and you think you have spare time, you can always approach the professor and ask. Yeah, but I think it'll be harder if you're not in the NIE environment. Yeah, you don't know who to approach. You don't really know how research works and so on. Yeah, so I would say it's not the case that these opportunities are only available to our students. It's just that it's more challenging because I also work with teachers in school. Are you in an MOE school? Or?
Yes.
Yeah,
in MOE school, yeah.
MOE school. Yeah, so I also work a lot with MOE teachers as collaborators, meaning for them it's voluntary work. Yeah, they're like intrinsically motivated to collaborate to work with professors and researchers. Yeah. Um, but those tend to be challenging, as you can imagine, because teachers, have full-time load and all that. So the barrier might be higher and the opportunities might not be as common. Yeah. So I would say it's possible if you're not a student to also be engaged in this various opportunities. It's just more challenging and may be more difficult to find out what the opportunities are and so on. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Camille. Yeah, for all these questions. I want to come back to the chat if there are questions from our Chinese participants, because we are live streaming to another country, China. Yeah, so the participants there may have some questions. Sharon, any questions from our China participants?
She's lagging, so I'll raise one question.
Okay, sure.
So, somebody asked, are there any precedents of successful applications from individuals with humanities and social science backgrounds to this program?
Good. Yeah, good question. Yeah. So I would say our Master of Education, the requirement is that you have had to teach. You must have some teaching experience. Yeah, 1 year. The website says 1 year because our Master of Education program is geared toward educators. That is why I say almost all of our Master of Education students are teachers or educators. Okay. So even if you have a humanities background, social science background, and so on, you can still apply. But more importantly, you need to have been a teacher or educator for at least a year. Our Science of Learning program is a lot more diverse. There is no requirement for you to have been a teacher or educator. And we've had many students without joining us without any background, teaching background. Yeah. I would say maybe 30%, 30 to 40%. Um, because we want to educate a broad group of students, right, from different profiles. I think your question might also relate to whether you'll be able to understand AI, use AI, maybe even develop technology if you don't have a technology background or AI background. Maybe your background is in literature, but you're really interested in technology, right? Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. We've had students with absolutely no background doing very well in our science of learning program. They have had no background in science. The last time they took sciences was maybe in primary school, yeah, or secondary school. But they've done very well in our science of learning program, yeah. Because our curriculum is very modern, you know. We don't teach science as a set of facts that you need to memorize. So I think in primary school, in secondary school, there's the notion of science, right? Set of facts that you then have to reproduce, right? We do have certain quizzes, certain assessment where you really have to memorize a few things, right? I won't lie to you and say there are no facts. There are some facts, but it's not like a sit-down exam worth 80%, yeah, of your marks. Yeah, it's not like that. There are some quizzes, maybe 20%. Um, but some of the quizzes are actually open book, meaning you can bring in your notes and so on. Yeah. The rest of the assessment, they are very modern, meaning there are reflections, there are projects, there are presentations, there are group work and so on. Yeah. So those things allow a lot of our humanities students to thrive, to do well. Yeah. So yes, I'm happy to say in our science of learning program, we've had non-STEM majors, non-STEM, people with non-STEM background doing very well. Yeah.
There's one more question. They
Mhm.
say that if I want to pursue emerging fields like digital health or edtech, are there any corresponding courses or mentor research areas available in the program?
Okay. I would say if your interest is in digital health, mental well-being, and so on, our program, these two programs of ours may not be a good fit. Yeah. Because we do cover social emotional learning. We do cover aspects of emotions and motivations. But I wouldn't say our program has a heavy emphasis on digital health, digital mental health, uh, psychology, the psychology of well-being and so on. For those, I would recommend our NIE's other programs in PCHD. Maybe Chloe or Sharon, you can give them a link to PCHD. PCHD is Psychology and Child and Human Development. We have a great psychology department that runs various programs in counseling, in mental health, and so on. So those programs are programs you can consider. Yeah, if your interest is really in mental health, mental well-being, and so on. Our current program, Science of Learning and Learning Sciences and AI, they are geared more toward learning. Yeah.
Just to add on to Prof. Farhan's message about the PCHD, tomorrow our colleagues from PCHD will be having their sessions. So if you're interested in psychology and child and human development related kind of programs, please feel free to join us. You can find out more information on our website. We will type it into the chat function. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I would strongly recommend. We have a great psychology and child and human development department. Yeah, they run quite a lot of interesting programs that may be a better fit. Yeah, if you're interested in well-being, mental health, and so on.
Somebody asked do you give priority to students from I think a very specific university or those with overseas undergraduate degrees during the admission process? They say for a student like me from an ordinary first-tier university, what GPA do I need to have a chance?
Oh, I see. I think once you have a bachelor's degree, um, I don't think that's ordinary. I think most people in the world don't have bachelor's degrees. So that already means you are able to thrive in an academic environment. We don't have quotas. We don't have quotas, meaning we assess individuals on their own merits in terms of their academic background, in terms of their fit to the program, um, in terms of they display certain soft skills, so-called soft skills, whether they're able to communicate and so on. One thing I want to know is that the admission can involve interviews. Not every applicant is interviewed, but there can be interviews, meaning we want to assess you more in a sort of interactive manner via an interview. We don't have quotas. If I had to give a proportion for Science of Learning program, our MSc program, about 30% of foreigners. Yeah. So majority are locals, meaning either Singaporeans or those living in Singapore already. Yeah. Whereas about 30% will be those from foreign countries coming to Singapore for the first time. Yes. For MEd, LSAI, Master of Education, the proportion of locals is a bit higher. Yeah. Because a lot of them are local teachers. Yeah. It's also because our MEd program, Master of Education program, is funded or sponsored by MOE. So those tend to be a lot more attractive to local teachers. Yeah. So depending on your needs and your aspirations, you can consider one or the other programs. Yeah.
So last question from the China side, they ask how long is the duration of both programs?
Okay, if you are taking it as a full-timer, meaning your course load or your module load is generally full-time meaning you're not supposed to work, right? You're supposed to study full-time. You will take 1 to 1.5 years. You can finish a program. Most of our full-timers finish in a year. Those who want to do a dissertation or want to go slower can take 1.5 years, full-timers. If you are a part-timer, you usually can complete it within 2 to 3 years. So most part-timers can complete it within 2 to 3 years. That's the typical pathway. I want to say that NIE also imposes a maximum candidature. If you're a full-timer, you need to finish within 2 years. Meaning if you don't, we unfortunately may kick you out. But we've never had that issue. All full-timers can complete within 1 to 1.5. But the maximum candidature is 2 years for full-timers and 4 years for part-timers, meaning you need to make sure you complete within 2 years as a full-timer or within 4 years as a part-timer. But again, almost all of our students can complete it way before the maximum candidature.
Just to add on also to Prof. Farhan, that for MEd, LSAI, there is subsidy given by MOE Singapore for our Singapore citizens and also our Singapore PR in varying amounts. So please do take note that there's a maximum duration to complete the program in order to enjoy the subsidy if you're eligible for it. So for full-time is 1 year, you must complete it for 1 year, and for part-time is 2 years. Okay, if you need any information, do feel free to drop us an email. We can provide that to you.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yes, good point. Yeah, for MEd, LSAI, the subsidy also has a time limit, meaning if you go beyond that time limit, then you won't be subsidized anymore. Yeah. Good. Any more questions? I'm happy to address more questions because I think the very fact that you're here on a Friday afternoon means you have been thinking about it. So I want to address concerns, maybe even issues you may anticipate in order for you to take the leap, right? Take the leap to apply. Yeah. Some of you may be wondering, is it possible to balance, right, studying and work? Possible. We have a lot of teachers who have completed our master's degree programs in a way that's very positive, right? They've learned a lot. They've engaged in a lot of coursework and applied a lot of what they learn in schools and so on. Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, I have to say it's challenging, but it has been done and can be done for sure. Yeah, the study plan comes in, the advising with the program leader comes in to sort of guide you and support you.
I think for our China side, we don't have any more questions.
Okay, good. Yes. So just to iterate, yeah, Sharon posted in the chat. the application window for our Master of Science in Science of Learning it's already open until 18 June. So if you apply and you're admitted, you will start your studies in January 2027. Okay. So that's for Master of Science in Science of Learning. Again, interdisciplinary program, exciting, learn about neuroscience, AI. You get to do a lot of hands-on learning activities, a lot of hands-on assessment, applicable to your different contexts and so on. If you're interested in our Master of Education, Learning Sciences and AI, the application window will be sometime in November to December, right, Sharon?
No, I think it should be sometime October, November, but
Okay.
so check back our website for more information sometime in September.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, sometime
Thank
in
you.
September, because I think the timeline has been shifted earlier. Yeah. So sometime in September. And if you're admitted, you'll be starting in August, the following year. Yeah.
I think maybe we can wait for one last round of questions.
Sure,
And
sure, yeah.
if nobody has any other questions, we can end the session.
Yes, yes. Some of you might be interested in how AI can be used in our courses, right? Because I think many of you are experiencing it. We do allow the use of AI in different forms in our respective modules. There'll be an AI policy use policy, right? Meaning for each module, the instructor will set policies as to how you can use it, when you can use it, and so on. So you should try to follow that policy. In general, we do allow the use of generative AI or AI in your respective modules or courses. We don't necessarily prevent, because that's part and parcel of learning now. But there is a lot of human component, meaning the instructor will still mark your assignments, will still provide feedback. There will still be group work, including group presentations. So it's not all AI everywhere, AI all the way, because there's still a lot of human component in in fact, in all of our modules or courses.
If no one has any other questions, somebody asked for your emails.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Let me post it in the chat. I've posted my email address in the chat. Feel free to drop me an email if you have curriculum questions about study plans, questions about content coverage, and so on. Yeah. If you have questions about admin matters like fees, subsidy, blah, 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 you're welcome to email our graduate office. You can also email me. If I cannot address it, I will forward it to the graduate office, because they are much more versed, in those issues to do with fees, and subsidies and requirements and so on. Yes, so Sharon just posted the graduate office email address if you have administrative questions. But feel free to also drop me any email. I'll be able to help route or send the email to the respective departments. I've also posted the link to our two programs. First is the Master of Science in Science of Learning. The other will be our MET LSAI, Learning Sciences and AI. The old name is Learning Sciences and Technologies. That's the old name. But we've since revamped the curriculum and rebranded the name as well. So the next admission cycle, it will be Learning Sciences and AI. So when you graduate, it will reflect Learning Sciences and AI. We have not updated the website, but it will be updated very soon, like literally maybe this week or next week. The next cohort will be named Learning Sciences and AI for this Master of Education program. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think I'll hand it over to Chloe if there are no questions.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions left, we can end the session. So thank you everybody for joining, and thank you to Assistant Professor Farhan Ali for giving us such an informational session today. And also thank you to our Chinese viewers as well. 谢谢大家 for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our Chinese participants or viewers. 再见. Bye bye.